Alright, as usual, I'm just going to wait for a little while until people kind of make their way in. Oh, hold on. I can see your, I positioned the Twitch chat panel very, very poorly. Give me a moment. I really don't know where to put this because there's text everywhere on the screen. Oh, there we go. I can change the size of the text. Nice. Yo! Good to see you, Frog. We'll see if anyone else comes in. At this point, I've definitely gotten over last night, and I'm ready to do this with however many viewers I end up getting. Alright. So, this is Sentinels of the Multiverse. This is at least what it looks like on the main page. You've got all the different little options. You've got your ad for all the DLCs and such that I already have. There's actually several what I would call ads, and some of them aren't actually selling you things. They're talking about like community events and stuff. And the Excellent Letters Page podcast, which is where I have learned most of what I know about this setting's story, besides, you know, the actual flavor text on the cards. So there's a couple of interesting places I'd like to go before we actually start a new game. First off, the Multiverse. So the Multiverse is essentially a very small in-game wiki for every single character in this game, heroes and villains. And if you, say, click on someone, I don't know, Legacy is usually a good start. You get some information about the person, and their bio. And you can also take a look at all of the cards in their deck. So this is a very good reference tool. But mainly you use it for getting lore. And the way these cards work, essentially, they're pretty standard for like card game stuff. You've got title, art, card types, rules text, and flavor text. Although the flavor text, funnily enough, is presented in quotes from these fake comic books that these characters are from. And so here we have Legacy doing one of his little speeches. You know who this character is. You've seen this character a lot, but he's got a unique spin on him here. And that's the thing, is that when I talk about this game to my friends, I always tend to joke about how much the characters are based off of other characters, but ultimately they do have a genuine lot of creativity to them, and they mix and match ideas in interesting and new ways. So, while Legacy is definitely the Superman character, his powers are actually more similar to I would almost say All Might. He's kind of got his own version of One for All, where power, like every time there's a new generation of the Parsons family, and this guy's name is Paul Parsons, they get a new extra power along with all of the predecessors' powers. So like, he's got flying, he's got super strength, he's got like damage resistance and such, and his daughter has eye beams as well as all of those things. So the Parsons family just becomes more and more powerful over the generations until we've gotten to this point where Paul Parsons is basically Superman. Anyway, I'm sure you're interested in actually seeing me play a game, so let's get to that. So, important note, when we're talking about the base game of Sentinels of the Multiverse, this is what we're talking about. These 4 villains, these 4 environments, and these 10 heroes. So that if you went out and bought a box of Sentinels of the Multiverse in the real world, like I have, this is what you would get in it. But you start adding all of the expansion sets and such, you have a ton of villains, even more heroes, lots of different places for them to fight, and even several different modes with their own villains. Monobrow Menace. I don't think I've seen you before, but hey, it's good to have someone else in the chat. If you saw my post on Tumblr, then or wait, yeah, whatever. Never mind. I can't promise it's going to be the most exciting stream. This is mostly something I do for friends, but anyone is welcome, of course. So the team mode, completely different, has a completely different set of villains than your basic mode, and newly added in the latest expansion, and I believe the final expansion, is Oblivion mode, which is I haven't finished a game of Oblivion mode yet. It's really hard. So we're not going to be doing that today. Today, to introduce everyone to the game, we're all just going to be playing probably the most basic game you can. And that is versus Baron Blade. And this is Baron Blade. Villain cards actually flip partway through the battle, so Baron Blade, on one side he's like the inventor of this super beam that pulls the moon into the earth, and on the other side he's got a suit, like a big robot suit. Oh, okay. So, quick note about the art. This is some of the art from the original game, and I very much like this art style. I've met people who don't. But if it's a bit rough for you, and definitely the artist has refined his work over time, but if it's a bit too rough, there's the anniversary foils. Complete with actual foil effects when you move your mouse over it, which is amazing. Oh dear, I see you're actually already familiar with Sentinels of the Multiverse. Oh god, the pressure. Anyway, so yeah, you get this cool, much shinier, much later artwork of some of the early characters. Especially with later characters, the shiny versions, the foils don't actually change the art all that much. So, for example, if we go over here and look at Void Guard mainstay here. It's like, that's the original art, and that's the shiny version. It like at that point the art styles are close enough because this is a very recent hero that the it doesn't really make much of a difference which one you're using. Whereas with Baron Blade, who is one of the first heroes, or not heroes, the first villain released, you get extremely different styles with the art. And of course, here's all of Baron Blade's rules text. I'm going to turn him to the original art because I have a fondness for Baron Blade's original art. Yeah. Also, I should note, variants are a thing. For both some villains and almost every single hero, and I think every single hero, it's just the last 5 heroes haven't had theirs released yet, there are variants, which are different versions of the character that have the same deck, but different, like, rules text on their character card. Baron Blade is one of the ones that has a variant. Mad Bomber Blade. Who is... like, he still keeps the Baron's individual deck, but the general rules of playing against him and how he works have been changed massively. I'll be able to explain that in more detail once I actually show you how Baron Blade works, but you should probably note that while regular Baron Blade is difficulty 1, Mad Bomber Blade is considered difficulty 2. Difficulty is not always the most accurate way of judging how hard a villain actually is to play, to fight, or how hard a hero is to play. I found the most accurate ones are generally which ones are difficulty 4 and which ones are difficulty 1. Yeah, no, like, exactly. Spite is a difficulty 2 when he should be a difficulty infinity. Because Spite is a bastard, and I hate him. Whereas, someone like, Iron Legacy, is considered a difficulty 4, which is very accurate. Because Iron Legacy can, wipe you out extremely fast. But yeah, I will probably not be fighting Spite at any point because it would be very, very dull. And I would get very frustrated because I like the idea behind Spite, but it just doesn't really work. And it ends up... you basically have to fight him with a specific team of heroes that just cheese everything he does, or you just die. And I got his variant legit, so... as well as Skinwalker Gloomweaver's variant legit. And I never want to have to fight Spite again. Anyway, so, Baron Blade. As for heroes, we'll be fighting him with the Freedom 5. Now, there's a couple of... although you go with specific heroes, there's a couple of hero teams that are present in the game's lore. And one of them is the Freedom 5, which consists of Legacy, Bunker, Tachyon, the Wraith, and Absolute Zero. Now, technically, while the Freedom 5 have fought Baron Blade before, the first time they all fought him, Absolute Zero wasn't on the team yet. I won't be playing my main yet. If we go into a second game of this, I definitely might, because I just absolutely love Chrono Ranger, but I want to just kind of show off what the most standard game looks like, which is Freedom 5, Baron Blade, Insula Primalis. Oh no, Stuntman's great, but I fell in love with Chrono Ranger literally the first time I ever played this game and haven't stopped since. Just a moment. Yeah, I think the reason that I'm so drawn to Chrono Ranger, well, both in his story, he's a time-traveling cowboy, which is amazing, and also just that, I always like that he may not deal the most damage, but he does kind of deal damage the most, which means that damage-boosting effects are extremely powerful on him, and he has a few that he can use himself with his bounties. So he's a very consistent DPS. Anyway. In terms of what heroes we're going to be bringing here for the Freedom 5, Legacy has a very, very good power that is useful for a lot of team comps. He just increases everyone's damage by 1. Now, we'll be getting more powers as the game progresses, because certain characters' cards that you can put out have powers. But the thing about character powers is that they're the ones you always have access to. No matter what else happens in the game, no matter if your board gets wiped, you will always have access to Legacy's Galvanize as long as Legacy is still alive. And even if he's not still alive, he still affects the game, because incapacitated heroes can still do things on their turn. They essentially make the other heroes stronger. To sort of facilitate those kind of stories where 90% of the team gets wiped, but then the last one is able to pull off a last-minute win. Bunker is a character that I have a lot of trouble understanding how to play a lot of the time. He's definitely the member of the Freedom 5 I am the worst with. His power is to draw a card, which is very good for him, because he definitely wants a lot of cards. Both to power his some of his ongoing stuff, and also to charge up his Omni Cannon, which is pretty cool. Tachyon, I've always described Tachyon as someone who does a lot of nothing for 5 or so turns, and then plays half of her deck and deals 50 damage. Tachyon, who is a speedster type character, wants to put a lot of specific cards in her trash, because some of her really powerful cards scale up depending on how many burst cards are in the trash. The Wraith can do damage reduction for herself. She's kind of a Batman sort of character, where she's got the gadgets and she's got the martial arts training, but she doesn't have any inherent powers. But her deck is very equipment focused. So she wants to get a lot of equipment out on the field and doing stuff. And our last hero is also very equipment focused, Absolute Zero, who, on his own, if his board is wiped, he has the worst power. But if he gets his specific modules and equipment out, he's one of your best damage dealers. Because as you can see, all his power does is deal damage to himself. But that's because he's a master of redirecting that damage onto others. And Insula Primalis is as I recall from the lore, it's like an area above the Arctic Circle that had been previously unknown. that actually has like a tropical, temperate to tropical climate where dinosaurs are still alive. So we're going to be fighting Baron Blade in Dinosaur Land while he's trying to pull the moon into the Earth. Alright, I've talked enough. Let's do this. Oh yeah, Citizen Dawn, another character I hate fighting. Fun fact, because Legacy is the first hero in the group here, he actually gets unique dialogue with the Baron. Otherwise, Baron would just say, "Ha ha ha! Tremble, fools! The moon grows closer with your every breath!" But here, he's actually talking to Legacy. So, starting off the game, Baron Blade is going to put his mobile defense platform into play. This makes him immune to damage until we destroy it. He's also going to play the first card of his deck, which is Hasten Doom. It's going to deal damage to everyone. More damage to Legacy because he and Baron Blade are nemeses. Each hero has their own specific nemesis somewhere in the game. And oh boy, consider the price of victory. Well, this has gone about as bad as a first turn for Baron Blade can go. Everyone has to discard a card. I guess I'll discard the Legacy Ring. Adhesive Foam Grenade. At least card discards are good for Tachyon, because I can put bursts in the trash. Out of all of those, I think Throat Jab is probably the most useless here. And Sub-Zero Atmosphere. And then he deals everyone damage. But yes, every character has a nemesis. Damage dealt to a character by that nemesis, and by a character to that nemesis is always increased by 1. Now, the fact that Baron just discarded a bunch of cards from his deck, which I said was really, really bad, is because of how Baron's first phase works, which is that at the start of the villain turn, if there are 15 or more cards in the villain trash, Baron Blade's Terra Lunar Impulsion Beam activates, pulling the moon into the Earth. Game over. Now, that goes away when you flip him to the other side by getting rid of all his HP. But we're already at about halfway to destruction by Moonfall. And Legacy's opening hand is not the greatest. I'll put the Legacy Ring in play and activate his power to increase everyone's damage by 1. Alright. Bunker's play is fairly obvious. Flat Cannon. Deal some damage to the mobile defense platform. Since we can't damage Blade yet, we have to focus on killing that platform as quickly as possible. Now, Tachyon is going to be playing Fleet of Foot, which is a one-shot burst card that makes everyone draw a card. And Tachyon gets to play another card. That said, I'll probably just play Accelerated Assault to get it into the trash and do 2 damage to the mobile defense platform. It hits everyone, but as I said, Baron Blade's currently immune to damage. Tachyon's power allows her to thin out her deck somewhat by discarding things. Generally, you want to put burst cards in the trash, but in this case, I'm probably going to actually put Pushing the Limits into the trash so I can get a more useful card right now. And of course I got Sucker Punch. Why wouldn't I? Sucker Punch is very useful if you're fighting a villain that has a lot of, like, little minions, but not super useful at the moment. That said, Wraith has one of her best cards out right now, Impromptu Invention, which is a draw, play, and search card. So, just go and draw a card, then play a card, and then put another card into play, which is going to be Micro-Targeting Computer. Micro-Targeting Computer increases projectile damage dealt by the Wraith by 2. Razor Ordnance deals 3 projectile damage. Now I could immediately play Null Point Calibration Unit, which is one of Absolute Zero's better cards, but I also have 2 copies of Onboard Module Installation, which I'm going to use to get his other module. It draws a card and allows me to search one of the modules from my deck. I'm going to pick Isothermic Transducer and immediately play it with the card's last ability, which is to play a card. And what Isothermic Transducer does is whenever Absolute Zero is dealt fire damage in any way, he deals one target that much cold damage. Yes, the icons on the cards tell you what the cards do, essentially. So in this case, damage redirection, deal cold damage. Or not damage redirection. Well, it's sort of damage redirection, but unlike most damage redirections, Absolute Zero still takes the damage. But that's actually fine. So I'm going to Thermodynamics and hit myself for fire damage. That fire damage is going to be increased by Legacy's Galvanize. And then the Isothermic Transducer reacts and deals 2 damage to Baron Blade, which is, again, increased by Galvanize. So I've just dealt 3 damage. Absolute Zero definitely requires more skilled piloting than the other members of the Freedom 5, but when you actually get him going, he's a very good hero. Okay, River of Lava. So, River of Lava is an annoying card because it activates immediately with no chance for you to sort of deal with it before you're forced to take 5 fire damage. Note that the reason 5 is a bit weird there is because the card actually reads H fire damage. Whenever the letter H is used in a card's text, that means the number of heroes, since you can pick 3 to 5 heroes. So in this case, since we have 5 heroes, River of Lava deals 5 damage. That's how they scale up the difficulty for more heroes. Now, I'm actually going to start off with Absolute Zero, and I'm not going to destroy his card. Bunker, yeah, I'll destroy Flat Cannon. I can afford to lose the Legacy Ring right now. And I'm just going to let Wraith take the damage. Tachyon didn't have any equipment cards because she doesn't have her HUD goggles out yet, so she's forced to take the damage. But this is ultimately going to be good for us, because, as you can see, Absolute Zero was just dealt fire damage. Thanks, Blade. Yeah, I'm gonna have to just... I'm just gonna take this. It's still early enough. Now, the nice thing about what's happening right now is that, at the very least, Baron's getting rid of all his really nasty cards at the beginning. Unfortunately, Absolute Zero has just... that damage didn't activate Absolute Zero. Very simple card for Legacy. Thok. Just punch Baron Blade and draw a card. Legacy, funnily enough, for a character who's something of the closest thing we have to a Superman, is he's actually mainly a support character. He's got the damage increases. He does do damage on his own, but mainly his roles are damage increase, healing, and tanking. He's a really good tank if you can get him set up properly with lead from the front and next evolution in play. He can redirect all damage to him and nullify a lot of that damage. I'm going to put Adhesive Foam Grenade to keep the environment from screwing us again. And then just draw a card. And now we've got all three of his mode cards, something that I don't really fully get. Yes. Danger Sense is also a very good card. I forgot about that one. That said, I'm actually going to destroy River of Lava with Tachyon's Blinding Speed, which destroys environments and ongoings. And then I'm going to Rapid Recon and discard Supersonic Response to get another burst card in the trash. Now, in preparation, I'm going to put Utility Belt into play. But also that lets me do something interesting. First off, I'm going to deal damage to Blade again. Now, Utility Belt lets you use 2 powers in a turn. So I can also use Wraith's Stealth to reduce damage dealt to her by 2. That way she'll survive for longer. Now, the obvious next thing to do for Absolute Zero is to put his other module into play. The Null Point Calibration unit turns all cold damage that Zero receives into health. So you damage yourself to deal cold damage to enemies, and you heal yourself with your own cold damage. In terms of character, Backlash Field. At least this one's not going to the trash, and Backlash Field is fairly easy to deal with. Backlash Field is especially good if you have Chrono Ranger on the team, because then he can get off an ultimate target activated power basically every single turn. But, let's see. I'm going to put Next Evolution in play for later. Increase everyone's damage again. Ammo drop, I guess. I'm going to put Synaptic Interruption into play to protect Tachyon a bit. I do not want to discard Fleet of Foot. That's a very good card. Even though it is a burst card and it does a lot of good stuff in the trash, Fleet of Foot is a card you definitely want to get to the trash by playing, not by other means. Alright, putting Mega Computer into play to make the environment a little less dangerous. And once again, being the major DPS. And last turn Stealth activated, which means thankfully we didn't waste it. Now, Absolute Zero's other thing that he's got going on are a lot of really good ongoing cards, and Impale is definitely one of them. Impale goes next to a villain at the beginning of every one of Absolute Zero's turns. It deals damage. Also, Stealth stacks? Holy shit, that's really good actually. I never knew that. Focused apertures, thank goodness. That's one of Absolute Zero's most important cards, beyond the modules themselves. Because that increases all his cold damage by 1. Okay, Obsidian Field. That's both good and bad, because that increases all damage by 1. And we have a Blade Battalion, which is going to hit Legacy for 6. Yeah, generally I find that Obsidian Field against Baron Blade is very good, although maybe not so much when he has Backlash Field out. We can, of course, get rid of it at any time. This is a perfect time for External Combustion. Sure, there's going to be a lot of damage dealt to Bunker, but I'm also going to both kill the Blade Battalion outright, draw a card from that, and deal 5 damage to Blade, which he's going to hit me right back with. Fleet of Foot to draw cards again. Another Sucker Punch. Absolutely wonderful. Guess the best thing to do here is Sonic Vortex, even though there's only one. It won't have its major effect, but it does something at least, and it's going to help us bring Baron Blade to the second side. And Synaptic Interruption triggers on his Backlash Field, because Tachyon would have been dealt 3 or more damage, which means it's being redirected right back to Blade himself. Oh, that was interesting. Apparently, Baron Blade hitting himself with the Backlash Field triggered his Backlash Field against himself. That's hilarious. Anyway, we should stop dealing damage now, because the only other people we could hit are heroes. And, well, sometimes you want to hit heroes. I recently had a very complicated game against the villain Progeny, where I actually had to kill Tachyon as fast as possible to get to her incapacitated side. Normally you want heroes to be doing things, rather than just doing 1 of 3 things a turn. I will discard Nimble Strike, yes. Research Grant! We finally get one of Tachyon's best cards, and the game's actually getting close to finished. Now. No, it's not time to use Inventory Barrage yet. Instead, I will put Infrared Eyepiece into play. Infrared Eyepiece is a very good control effect, because it allows you to look at the top 2 cards of the villain's deck and choose which one to put into play. In this case, I do not want another Devious Disruption. I want his Living Force Field. Okay. Focused Aperture's in play. Deal 3 fire damage to Absolute Zero, which results in 6 cold damage because of 3 fire plus Galvanize plus Obsidian Field plus Focused Apertures to Blade. And at this point, yes, I am going to discard 2 cards because I don't want him getting the effects of Obsidian Field on his turn. Or maybe I shouldn't have. I just realized that I did stack his deck so that he's not actually going... No, he is going to damage us, so... Yeah. No onboard module installation. And... yeah, I'll just discard those. Oh dear. Enraged T-Rex is going to bite Bunker. Well, at the very least, the Mega Computer saved him a bit. Also, yes, you're I was distracted, but you are absolutely right. Haka can do some very... like, a lot of characters damaging Tachyon while Synaptic's on the field can be really, really good. Now, can I directly damage him right now? This phase of the Baron, since he doesn't have... Okay, so basically, this phase of the Baron wins by killing all of the heroes. You can kind of see that most of his effect is basically what happens when he flips over, which is he goes back up to 30 HP, and he goes through all of the villain cards he just put in the trash again. Well, basically, his trash gets shuffled into his deck. And he loses his mobile defense platforms, but now he deals direct damage to the heroes. So that's how he wins, is by killing all of the heroes. There is a reason Baron Blade is a difficulty 1 villain. That said, I don't have anything that can directly damage him right now, so just in case this turn goes, like, horrendously wrong somehow, I'm going to take down the Baron to stop him from playing any more cards. I'm still going to kill him on this turn, but it's always best to prepare for anything that could possibly go wrong. There is a button up here that allows you to skip back to previous turn phases, but it's not super reliable, and it's kind of cheap. It's mostly fair if you actually misread or made a misplay or something. Not for cheesing the system. Hypersonic Assault is a very useful card for Tachyon in much longer fights because it's damage mitigation for 1 turn. But okay, let's go out in style. Inventory Barrage. Destroy all of Wraith's inventory cards. And deal 10 damage to Baron Blade. 11 with Galvanize, but -1 with Living Force Field. Boom! So yeah, that's the very basic gameplay loop of Baron Blade. Yeah, you're fighting. That's the brilliant thing, is that even in the physical game, the villains have AI, which is the randomness of their deck. And more difficult villains will often have decks that, like, help them out by searching things. Like, for example, I mentioned Progeny earlier. And Progeny is really annoying because he has a lot of cards. He's got a lot of ongoing and what are called Scion cards that are unique to him. And a lot of his other cards will go ahead and search those cards. Which is one of the reasons why you have to... one of the best ways to fight Progeny is trapping him into a gameplay loop with Legacy and Incapacitated Wraith and Tachyon. So, that was the basic game. Now let's do something a bit more interesting. In terms of heroes, I'm going to bring along some more of characters that I really know how they work and can play them really well, including my main Chrono Ranger. I'll also show off something pretty cool, which I mentioned there are variants. I showed the variant of Baron Blade. I did not show any hero variants. So, Chrono Ranger here, he's got Quick Shot. He deals one target, one projectile damage. But I also have his variant card, which is the Best of Times Chrono Ranger. Which you'll notice, the main thing that's changed is his built-in power. Well, the main thing that's changed is the art, but shut up. That's the cool thing about variants. Is that they necessarily change how the deck is played. So, for example, basic Chrono Ranger is almost entirely damage focus. He puts out his bounties, and he does a lot of single target damage. He can do multi-target damage, but he's not quite as good against villains that have a lot of minions. Best of Times Chrono Ranger helps with that a bit. It leaves out his basic ability to deal damage consistently, but you can almost certainly get equipment that gives you that ability anyway. Whereas with True Purpose, you can actually you can still stack all of your bounties on the main villain, but you can temporarily make them target other villain targets as well. So, for example, if we were fighting Baron Blade again, and I really needed to just kill the absolute shit out of one of those Blade battalions, but all of my damage boosting bounties were on the Baron, I could use True Purpose to make those bounties also apply to the Blade Battalion. That said, I still prefer basic Chrono Ranger. There are, however, some variants that are much, that I prefer more than their basics. So, for example, Tachyon has Team Leader Tachyon, which is straight up one of the single best powers in the entire game of making everyone draw a card. Yeah, alongside Savage Mana strats, I actually tend to not use Team Leader Tachyon because I kind of feel it's a bit cheap. I mostly use her when attempting to unlock other variants, which that's an important thing I should go into. So let's go to someone who has variants I haven't unlocked yet. Captain Cosmic. So you can see that I've got like Requito Captain Cosmic here. I don't have him unlocked. I could unlock him right now by pressing this button, but that's the cheaty way to get variants, where if you don't want to go through the actual challenges, because each variant in the game has a secret unlock condition. And normally, the unlock condition of each variant has to do with the story of that hero. So, for example, Best of Times Chrono Ranger was unlocked after I fought the villain Ambuscade in the Wagner Mars base without dealing the final blow with Chrono Ranger. To simplify, there were a couple more things I had to do, but that's the very simplistic version, which mirrors the actual story of how Chrono Ranger went on to become this version of himself. Anyway, I don't really have a particular villain in mind for this fight. I want to do someone who's a challenge, but not just annoying. So I'll take suggestions for any villains and potentially other heroes, but other heroes I'm more so sort of just I want to play as a few that I'm better with. So let's see. I'd say probably difficulty 2 is appropriate at this point. Don't pick Spite. I will actually kill you. You know, yeah, I'm not really super familiar with Akashbata. I haven't fought her very often, but sure, that makes her interesting and new. I'm gonna go into this mostly blind. I don't really know what Akashbata's cards do. All right, if we're fighting Akashbata, that makes the choice of characters a bit easier. I'll go with with a few of the Prime Wardens. Let's go with Argent Adept because he's Akashbata's nemesis, and Tempest is a good all-rounder. And Haka. Yeah, that sounds good to me. In terms of environment, what's appropriate for an Akashbata fight? Well, what would be really appropriate is Insula Primalis, but well, funnily enough, in the Chrono Ranger was actually instrumental in the big confrontation with Akashbata by the Prime Wardens, which you can see in one of Chrono Ranger's cards, Just Doing My Job, as well as in one of his bounties, By Any Means. During the fight against Akashbata with the Prime Wardens, at the very end of the fight, when Akashbata is sort of starting to get back up, Chrono Ranger pops in and puts 6 bullets into Akashbata's head, and then just tips his hat and walks out through the portal. And it's one of his first major appearances in Sentinel comics, and no one knew it was up with this time-traveling cowboy yet. I'm not sure if I should go with Fnatic as well. No, I think that the other 3 Prime Wardens are probably something. Well, Chrono Ranger isn't entirely focused on just fixing the final wasteland. He's there to deal with any threats to time that would result in bad futures. So, Akashbata winning and destroying the Virtuoso of the Void and doing whatever the hell she wanted would definitely have been a bad thing. But yes, in terms of environments for Akashbata, a lot of places to pick from. The really safe bet in terms of environments is usually the block, because the block's kind of infamous for being an environment that mostly keeps to itself and doesn't screw around with the villain. But, yeah, you know what? Let's just do it in the final wasteland. Think good and hard, partner. I aim to put you down, and I don't miss. I love Chrono Ranger. So the Final Wasteland is heavily related to Chrono Ranger as a character. It's where he ended up after falling through the time portal from Silver Gulch, and he kind of that's where he got his arm torn off by Ratman, and that's where he met Khan, who is the one who lets him travel through time after the initial portal. Okay, so what is it? Yeah. Whenever an environment target enters play, the top card of the villain deck is played. Yes, that is 200 HP. I honestly don't know whether I'm going to win this or not. Like I said, I haven't fought Akash Bata in a very, very long time. And, yeah. When the environment trash is shuffled into the environment deck, Akash Bata flips. She may only flip this way. Oh, shit! I forgot about that part. That means that since there's only 15 cards in the Final Wasteland villain deck, she's going to be flipping a lot. Which means, oof. Okay. That's incredibly appropriate that the hero version of Akash Bata does weird things with their villain self. Okay. Starting off with Displaced Armory. Very good. 2 copies of it, in fact, which means I can get the Compounded Bow into play as quickly as possible, as well as get something else. So we've already essentially made Chrono Ranger's basic power obsolete, because Compounded Bow is just his basic power twice, but you also get to pick the second type of damage. These are all the damage types in the game! Let's be weird and make it do infernal damage somehow. Boxing glove arrow. Haven't you ever seen Green Arrow? Argent Adept is a very sort of... I don't want to call him complicated, because he's really not, but he's kind of a character that you're really at the mercy of his deck a lot of the time. Luckily, we got one of the best cards he has right off the bat. So, he can activate a Perform text. Basically, all of his Melody, Harmony, and Rhythm cards have Perform and sometimes Accompany texts. So yes, we can destroy Entomb. Let's put Electrical Storm into play as quickly as possible, and use Tempest's ability to deal everyone projectile damage. That's correct. The perform and accompany text are not powers and don't suffer from the you can only use a specific power once per turn limit. Okay, I need to stop for a moment to talk about something, which is Haka's best and most cheesy card, Savage Mana. Now, Haka's normally a character who focuses on dealing a lot of damage, but Savage Mana is one of the strangest cards in the game because it has an effect that is pretty much unprecedented. Whenever Haka destroys a target, you may put that card beneath this card. And with the power, you can destroy all the cards beneath this card, and he deals that number times 2 toxic damage. Here's the thing, though. Cards that are beneath Savage Mana are not in play and don't have their in-play effects, but they're also not in the villain trash, which means they can't be searched by villain cards, and they don't count for things like Baron Blade's Terra Lunar Impulsion Beam. Meaning, some villains can be really, really thoroughly just screwed by having their important cards go under Savage Mana. I was once able to infinitely stall Gloomweaver by putting all of his relics under Savage Mana. And like all of his zombies and all of his cultists and all of the voodoo pins, he could do absolutely nothing. He was just sitting there while I set up for a variant unlock, and I finished it off with just activating Savage Mana, putting all 3 relics in the trash, and just Gloomweaver just dies. It's a really good card, and it's another thing I find really, really cheap to overuse. Oh yeah, he just, well, yeah, you need the Villain Deck Manipulator against Citizen Dawn because Savage Mana's one weakness is that it's an ongoing card and can be destroyed by any villain cards that kill ongoing cards. Anyway. This is going to be a really important card for Haka in this game because this is all about the environment. And Dominion draws Haka a card whenever an environment card is destroyed. And then he's just going to deal some melee damage. Okay, now I'm starting to remember why Akashpata having like 200 HP doesn't actually matter. It's because when she plays her limb cards, that do bad stuff to you, destroying her limbs essentially deals. See how it has 11 health? When this card is destroyed, Akashpata deals herself 11 energy damage. Destroying her limbs, which you want to do anyway, is analogous to destroying her, since all of the things that all of her targets are in fact extensions of her own body. Destroying them hurts her as well. Yeah, because if she didn't have 200 health, then, like, you destroy 5 limbs and you're done. Ah, shit, there goes our ongoings. Goodbye, Dominion. Now, even though Dead or Alive has a very good effect. Yeah, the Dead or Alive is an interesting card because it kind of has two different effects, which actually fits it being called Dead or Alive. It helps you as long as the target is alive, but it also helps you when the target dies. That said, I like the alive effect better, so I'm going to put it on Akashpata. Okay. Let's get some healing around. I'm going to put Cleansing Downpour in place so that Tempest can do some extra healing. While killing Akashpata isn't quite as bad as the 200 HP would suggest, it's still a marathon of a fight, so I'm probably going to need lots of healing. Well, there's a lot of ways different villains can... Like, we got about as close as you can get to being screwed over immediately with Baron Blade. If at any point he chains Hasten Doom into Consider the Price of Victory. Man, why did you have to destroy Dominion before doing that, Akashpata? Now, Unforgiving Wasteland that she just discarded is another card that is really, really weird. I'm going to show it to you because it's actually kind of an important thing about playing in the Final Wasteland. Whenever a target would be destroyed by damage dealt by an environment card, remove that target from the game instead. This is a double-edged sword because you can end up getting your important hero cards removed from the game. But it can also do interesting things like, for example, let's say this was out and a skunk ape happened to kill one of Akashpata's limbs. That limb's gone. This can actually end up in... Now, I don't remember this exactly, but I seem to recall there being some discussion about a potentially unwinnable situation involving Unforgiving Wasteland, where you could end up with a really important card for defeating one of the villains be removed from the game entirely. Okay. I definitely need more Chrono Ranger cards. And yeah, see, I mentioned this card earlier. This is the one where we actually see him shooting Akashpata. And this is from the first major battle with her that the Prime Wardens had. And in fact, I will play this card. Okay. I'm going to trash Ranger's Mark for now. I have enough instruments. Vicious Cyclone isn't going to be super useful here. I already have a Tomoko in play. Now let's punch her with a bow. Yes, Eye on the Prize is one of Chrono Ranger's really, really good one-shots. And Alacritus Subdominant is where we really start to see the strengths of Ardent Adept come into play. Since we just drew a ton of cards with Chrono Ranger, why don't we put Kill on Sight into play under Mountainous Carapace? Grievous Hailstorm is literally just Tempest's basic power, but better. And it also deals cold damage. Alright, in this case, I definitely want Mountainous Carapace to go down first. Yes, that's the card I wanted, Sudden Contract. And now, everything else. Mere is Haka's basic power, but it also lets you draw a card. Kamere. So, by the way, in terms of character, Haka is power-wise, he's sort of an Incredible Hulk character, but in terms of who he actually is, he's basically Connor McLeod from Highlander. Also, geez, we're gonna get a lot of limbs. Mountainous Carapace again. Oof. Let's damage the heroes first. I apologize for skipping through some of these damage things, but yeah, I just don't want to go through all of that. Anyway, now we finally can start doing things. here is what I'm going to do. Sudden Contract, and I'm going to grab By Any Means, which is actually the card with Akashpata on it, as you can see, and put it on Akashpata. That way, whenever she deals herself damage, By Any Means, what it essentially does is increase all damage dealt to that target by 1, which means putting it on Akashpata herself is going to increase the damage that she deals to herself when her limbs are destroyed. Another Sudden Contract, which means that next turn we can search out the ultimate target. Okay. Exactly. Okay, so Arcane Cadence is one of... It's a really important card advantage card for Argent, because it allows you to move a lot of cards around in different ways. In this case... I'm going to put Verdant Sonata in my hand. Counterpoint Bulwark on top of the deck. The other one on the bottom. Drake's Pipes in the trash. And place... Oh, shit. Misplay. Yeah, no, I'm just gonna, Oh, I have to, don't I? Oof. I got the order of that wrong. Alright, here we go, I guess. Yeah, you know what, I would much rather rewind. Alright, let's try this again. So let's not make the same mistake. Bulwark in hand. Shadow on top of deck. Bulwark on bottom of deck. Pipes in trash, and Vernal Sonata in play. Much better. Now we can take stuff from our trash and put them on top of the deck. Which I am going to put... which one? Probably... No, I have other ways of putting... Or wait. Ranger's Mark on top of deck. And Saraband of Destruction, Electrical Storm, Dominion. Play another Sudden Contract from Chrono Ranger. This time, it's the ultimate target. And I'm going to put it also on Akashpata. And then kill Arboreal Phalanges. And since she dealt herself some damage, that means I get to use a power.
Alright, which one's the important one to kill at this point? Probably the living rock slides I want to kill first. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there. I'll just put Otherworldly Resilience in play. And Grievous Hailstorm the field. Yeah, but Brambles are only preventing damage from Argent Adept, and I don't really deal damage with Argent Adept. Okay, it's time for Savage Mana. Let's put it in play and see what we can do. Yeah, Chrono Ranger's actually looking really good for this matchup. I didn't expect this to work out so well. Oh geez, Entomb. See, even though we have two Ensnaring Brambles in play, they're all just on the Argent Adept. And you know the funny thing? Not only is Argent Adept not our main damage dealer right now, as far as I remember, he only has one way to deal direct damage in his entire deck. And it's Scherzo of Frost and Flame, which deals 1 fire and 1 cold damage to 2 different targets. Which, you know, he's much more important for his support role. I know he can damage himself with Porphyritic Flare or whatever it is, but I don't really fully know how that. I don't think that's really something that you have to worry about with Ensnaring Brambles, is that he can't deal damage to himself. Is there? I'll take a look. So you're talking about one of his, okay. Oh, yep, it's, okay, yes, the Syncopated Onslaught's accompany text is deal 1 target 1 sonic damage. So, either 2 total damage from Scherzo of Frost and Flame, or 1 sonic damage. I don't think it matters that Argent Adept can't deal damage right now. Hang on, I might be able to do something here. Okay, yes. Displaced Armory. Search my deck. I want a temporal grenade. I'm going to deal damage to Mountainous Carapace. And destroy Entomb. And then I draw another temporal grenade. Alright. Perform. Alacritus. Chrono Ranger. Let's take this opportunity to put the Masada into play. Or wait, should we? No, let's Ranger's Mark. Put Kill on Sight into play under Mountainous Carapace. Then shoot Mountainous Carapace. Electrical Storm, and I think it's time for some heals. Fun fact, the card Ball Lightning, that's not actually Tempest on the card. That is the character of Tempersonation from the team villain Biomancer's villain deck. The artist and writer mentioned this during an episode of the Letters podcast, that this is one of those cards that was from the period where Tempest had been taken over by an imposter made by Biomancer. I know, I just really like that detail of, like, not all of Tempest's cards are actually his. Tayaha! Yes! And yes, guys absolutely can use Argent's shit. In fact, the card that lets him borrow an equipment card actually shows him taking the Argent Adept's what's the not the lyre? I think whatever it was. His little guitar thing, and fucking playing Freebird on it, because Guys is amazing. And it looks like the New Jersey Devil is going to be doing a lot of great damage for us. It's funny, I normally think of the Final Wasteland environment as being, like, very bad for heroes, but here it's actually done us more good than harm. No, the instruments specify only that it has to be a melody, harmony, or rhythm card. Or effect. Do I have any bounties left in my deck? Aha. whole gang, placing the whole gang under Living Rock Slide. And then I'm going to hit Akashbata twice. I've never been. What's also one of the reasons that I'm still kind of on the fence about Stuntman is that I'm not a huge fan of the heroes that they don't require a lot of setup, but that means that their ability to do things are very variable. Okay, melody, harmony, melody. I'll put the harp in play for later, but for the time being, I'm still going to be doing this. Terrible Tech Strike. I'm going to hit this Mountainous Carapace. And then kill Living Rock Slide, which deals 10 damage to Akashbata, allowing Chrono Ranger to use a power, which I'm going to use once again on Mountainous Carapace. And then use the effect of the whole crew, the whole gang, to destroy arboreal phalanges, and do another 12 damage. Wow, it turns out the people who beat up Akashbata in the story are really good at beating up Akashbata in the game. Who would have thunk? You know what I'm going to do? This is going to be a bit weird. I'm going to use Into the Stratosphere. Oh no, it can only be used on villain cards. Oof. Okay, let's new plan. Let's not do that. Instead, let's just put this card into play for later, and do some Tempest heals. Okay, now Taiaha. Oh, I should have done the other one, I guess. Whatever. Oof. Okay. Subwave. Harp. Melee. Yep, that's how Chrono Ranger works. Oh yeah, I suppose I do have the money. Well. I actually. Here's the thing. Actually, at this point, uh, the Masada is actually less effective for dealing damage to a Kashpata directly than the compounded. I've done these calculations. The Masada starts being better than compounded bow with by any means in the ultimate target in play at exactly 4 bounty cards out. Yeah, bounty board. Let's play another of these. Okay. Which one's which? Okay, yes, Inspiring Supertonic we definitely want to put into play. I'll put Choose Bell into hand. Onslaught top deck. Vigor bottom deck. Destruction trash. Supertonic in play. Play a card. And I'm going to put put the Masada into play. I'll put a Vicious Cyclone next to a Kashpata. I like how at a certain point with certain heroes, you just get like a massive stack of cards under other cards. One time I was playing in a game with Skyscraper and Chrono Ranger in play, and it was insane. There were so many cards in the villain area. Oh, again? Okay. Well, this is something of a bad situation. Okay. You mean armory? Oh yeah, it can. Oh god, it can search the trash. Okay. I'm gonna put the compounded bow back into play. So I have. I'll put Ada Seer's Horn into play, but for the time being. Okay, what does Commander have at this point? I'm going to Inspiring Supertonic. Tempest for the heals. I'll discard into the Stratosphere to do 2 damage. And yes, like you said, Flash Flood, killing the Abominable Snowman. And getting 2 cards off of Dominion. Yeah. Or no, we don't want to, because now we just got Living Rockslide, which is lower HP than Argent. So I'm actually going to destroy Khan's bunker. I'm very sorry, Khan, but it's for the greater good. And just to make absolutely sure of this, I'm going to heal with Tempest again. Okay. Two. Hawk of Battle. Alright, let's discard some cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, activate Living Rockslide first. Yes, you just shuffle your trash back into your deck if you run out. And now, put it under Savage Mana. I guess he is damaging Adept again, but it doesn't super matter because we've got really good healing with Tempest. Kill on sight, under Ensnaring Brambles. It's actually probably better at this point to start really hitting Akashpita instead. Alright. Arcane Cadence again. Oh, here's where we can get funny. Alright. Let's put Inspiring Supertonic... Oh, wait, no. Okay. Instrumental Conjuration in hand. Inspiring Supertonic on top of the deck. Frost and Flame on the bottom. Instrumental Conjuration in the trash, and play another Arcane Cadence immediately. Okay. Hand. Top deck the Drum. Bottom deck the Flare. Trash the Dissonant. And play another Inspiring Supertonic. That way, if we get that Musaragni's Harp back into play, we can actually activate both Inspiring Supertonics to get both the use a power and regain 2 HP effects. Oh, good point. Oh well. I'm not going to do that whole deal again. Okay. Gonna put Mare back into play, as cool, as funny as another Dominion would be. That said, I'm also going to kill the New Jersey Devil, so that I got 2 card draws off of Dominion. Oof. What does Allies of the Earth do? Oof. Okay. That's worrying. Oh. Didn't know that. That was an absolutely perfect villain turn. All that happened was we got the Akashbada's 2 most useless limbs back into play. And we just kind of skipped through everything that wasn't a limb in the rest of her deck. Okay. Time to get a bit risky with it. I'm going to put Hunter and Hunted into play. Hunter and Hunted increases damage dealt to and by Chrono Ranger by the amount of bounties in play. I haven't played it yet because I was concerned about him taking too much damage, but we're so close to the end that I'm just going to go for it. Company Rhythm, Melody Perform. Saraband Destruction, Allies of the Earth. I'm going to pop this at this point. Use a power or play a card. I'm going to go with use a power. Because I think okay, I need a minute. That would be satisfying, Monobrow, but remember that it was my boy Chrono Ranger who actually finished off Akashbata in the real timeline, so that's the one I went with. And yeah, you can kind of see that that even though Akashvita does have 200 HP, oh, see you, Monobrow. It's been really fun having you. Even with Akashvita having 200 HP, that doesn't actually make her all that much more difficult than other difficulty 2 villains. Aside from, of course, Spite. Right. What time is it? How much longer can you stay, Frog? Do you think we have time for one more game? Okay. I will explain Spite to you, in that case. Let me pull up his cards so I can show them to you. Spite is a serial killer by the name of Jack Donovan, who was experimented on by the nefarious Pike Industries. And ended up as this horrifying drug-powered serial killer. So here's how he works. The basic idea is that he enters play on this side, and this card is put into play, Safe House. When this card enters play, reveal cards from the top of the villain deck until a victim card is revealed. Put it into play. Shuffle the rest of the revealed cards back into the villain deck. When Spite flips to his drug-racked monstrosity side, he deals himself X toxic damage, where X equals the number of cards under this card times 5. This card and cards under this card are indestructible. Cards under this card have no text. So the victim cards consist of 3 copies of Innocent Bystander, 1 copy of Potential Sidekick, 2 copies of Lost Child, and 3 copies of Good Samaritan. These are all people who Spite is targeting on his serial killer rampage. The villain cards all have text that basically says, when this card is destroyed, Spite regains H HP. So depending on the number of heroes in play, Spite will regain HP each time he destroys a victim card, equal to the number of heroes, which is already very annoying. But on his own, Spite also regains HP from dealing damage. So he's got Life Drain. He also plays 2 cards a turn, because he plays the top card of the villain deck at the end of the villain turn, and deals the hero target with the highest HP H-1 energy damage. And if there are 5 drug cards in play, Spite flips. So the drugs are the other major thing about Spite. The drug cards are, there's 5 of them, and they are Demon's Kiss, Mindfire, PL531 Compound Upsilon, PL602 Compound Omicron, the Nomad Soul, and PL626 Compound 11. And drugs are indestructible. Drugs cannot be placed into the trash. Instead, they are simply put into play. So you can't even get rid of them you can't even stall them from coming out that well, unless you can put them on the bottom of the deck. And yeah, other than those cards, Spite has an ongoing and a few one-shots. His most dangerous one-shot is Forced Entry, in which he places all cards under the Safe House card into play and destroys a victim card. Because, okay, the victims have a thing where the heroes can do stuff to put them under the safe house. But even the safe house isn't quite safe. Because forced entry can destroy it. Collateral damage is an ongoing that when it enters play, destroy a victim card, and whenever he deals a target 4 more damage at once, destroy a victim card. And Lab Raid destroys all the environment cards and reveals cards from the top of the deck until as many drug cards as environment cards destroyed are revealed. Yes, you want to have a lot of cards under Safe House for when he flips. So when he flips... first off, I should talk about what the drug cards actually do. Oh, and also On the Prowl just straight up destroys a victim card and then puts another victim card into play. Also of note, the potential sidekick victim is somewhat special in that because he's just a kid and was someone who could have become a hero at a certain point, when this card is destroyed, all heroes are dealt 2 psychic damage. And psychic damage is occasionally used by this game to essentially mean morale damage. So the drug cards, aside from being indestructible, Demon's Kiss makes Spite deal every non-villain target 1 infernal damage at the end of the turn. Mindfire destroys all environment guards at the end of the turn and deals psychic damage based on the number of environment cards destroyed like that. Upsilon increases his damage by 1 and puts H-2 ongoing or equipment cards back into their player's hand. Omicron reduces damage by H-2 despite the first time each turn. And Compound 11 is basically the ultimate target, but for heroes. Whenever a hero uses a power, Spite deals them 2 toxic damage, and that hero's player discards the top 5 cards of their deck. Once all of those are in play, Spite will flip to his other side, Drug-Racked Monstrosity. Now, when he flips to this side, all villain cards in play other than drugs and this card are destroyed, which, for the record, does not include the safe house. So the safe house doesn't get destroyed, no worries. Whenever a villain card would enter play, instead Spite deals each hero target other than the hero target with the lowest HP 1 projectile damage. So when he flips to this side, his deck essentially goes away. You can't get more victim cards, but he also can't play forced entry anymore. So at that point, he just becomes a perfect loop. He will always do exactly the same thing each turn, based on what his drug cards are doing. And deals 1 projectile damage each turn. So at that point, you just have to hope that you can survive it, catch him in the loop, and kill him. Spite is a bastard, asshole, fuck, and I hate him. And there is no way he should be difficulty 2. Alright, let's get on to that game. Let's do someone... Alright, I don't know if anyone else but you is still here, Frog. I can't really tell from this. But once again, I'll let you guys pick the villain, and this time, go all out, any difficulty. I'll read the names of all the villains, and you can just pick any one that looks interesting. I don't really care if I lose this game or not. Okay. So we've got Baron Blade. We've got Citizen Dawn, Grand Warlord Voss, Omnitron, Ambuscade, the Chairman, the Matriarch, Plague Rat, who is Chrono Ranger's nemesis, actually, Spite, of course, Akashpita, who we already did, Apostate, the Aeneid, which is actually technically a group of villains, Gloomweaver, Misinformation, Le Capitan, the Dreamer, Iron Legacy, Kismet, Deadline, Infinitor, Kargra Warfang, Progeny, and Wagermaster, and Chokepoint. So yeah, I'm willing to go with Le Capitan if you haven't changed your mind, but otherwise, yeah, you can pick any of them. I'll even let you pick Spite if you really want, but that's not going to be very interesting. Okay. The Dreamer is probably one of the strangest villains. Because, okay. So the idea behind the Dreamer is that she is actually the young version of one of our heroes, the Visionary. And they are nemeses, but it's a bit different. You actually generally don't want the Visionary on a team where you're fighting the Dreamer. Because if you notice, the Dreamer only has 6 HP. And that is because the main goal of the Dreamer fight is to keep the Dreamer herself alive. See, the Dreamer, her thing is like, she's out of control, she doesn't understand her powers, and she's summoning these, like, twisted psychic manifestations. And the heroes have to destroy the manifestations to calm her and save her without letting her die because she is just a child and she doesn't understand what she's doing. Okay. Yeah, let's go with the Dreamer. Now, let's see. I'm gonna bring Wraith. Chrono Ranger is really not super great for this this fight. And anyone who's mainly dealing AoE damage is also very, very bad. So I'll bring Ra and Haka and see how this goes. We will be fighting her in the realm of Discord. No promises as to how well this is going to work, but I'm going to give it a shot. Wraith, she's a child. Calm down. Okay. Definitely get rid of Combat Stance. Combat Stance is... anything that can deal damage outside of your control is bad in this fight. I'll discard Flesh of the Sun God. Enduring Intercession. Okay, what do we gotta do? So, at the start, okay, right now, there's no way for us to win the game. There's no win conditions, and killing the Dreamer is a loss condition. But at the start of the villain turn, if there are no projection cards in play, 3 hero ongoing cards are destroyed and the Dreamer flips. Whenever the Dreamer would be dealt damage by an environment card, the players may direct it to the hero character card with the lowest HP. Okay, so once the Dreamer flips, whenever a projection card is destroyed, it is placed under this card. At the start of the villain turn, if there are 6 cards under this card, the heroes win the game. Okay. I'll put Throwing Knives into play. And start chucking things at some of these projections. Put Blazing Tornado into play. Ra, if you hadn't guessed, is the closest thing that we have to Thor here, except we've gone with Egyptian gods instead of Norse gods. He's an archaeologist who found the Staff of Ra in an ancient tomb, and the spirit of Ra inhabited his body and is now a hero that does a lot of fire damage. Rampage is a very bad card for this. It does kill a lot of projections, but it's gonna fuck up the Dreamer real bad. Although, you know what? I'm gonna take a pretty big risk here and play Rampage. Because I think I might be able to get her to flip on turn 1. Okay, Haka can't deal damage next turn. That's fine. Yes! Okay. That was risky, but it paid off. Yep. Okay. Now, as long as we just destroy 6 different projections at some point, we can do this. Wrathful Gaze. to kill the illusory demon. Haka can't deal damage this turn, so I'm just going to Taiaha and skip. Oof. Dark heroes are not great. Oh boy. Yeah, that was actually... I'm gonna try that again. Razor Ordnance. Smash Dark Hero. And then Stealth. Staff of Ra in play. Bit of control with Ground Pound. Oh, come on. And now Wraith can't play cards. Dark Hero. Down. Now throwing knives. Okay, so Ra can't deal damage this time. Okay. Prompt to invention. Micro-targeting computer. And play. Throat jab. Targeting. Oh, I'll just kill Macabre Spectre then. Yeah, no, don't worry. I'm not talking much because I'm just focusing on being very precise with my damage. I'll play Imbued Fire. I'm prevented, of course. Whew. Okay, I got really lucky on that game. Jeez. It was a huge risk to. Well, first off, I got really lucky to get Rampage so early, and then it was a huge risk to play it. But yeah, it ended up much better than I expected because I'm not super good at the Dreamer on the best of days. Maybe this is one of those few games where my skills actually increase when someone's watching me. Okay, I need to take a moment to use the restroom, so I'll be right back. Oof. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably the end of the stream. But yeah, I definitely be really quite open to just um, streaming it sometimes and playing more just more fun games. And yeah, if anyone was to pick up a copy of Sentinels, I'll play with them. There is a multiplayer system. All right, let's close out the stream. And yeah, thanks for coming, everyone.